Hello, everyone, and welcome to Real Estate Right Now, where we talk about real estate matters that matter to you. My name is Jay Izzo, and we are live here from Lindencraft Team Studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina, part of the Research Triangle Park. And today's show is a show that we've talked about doing. We just never have done it for whatever reason. And it is, what I wish I knew before I became a real estate professional. Oftentimes, what happens is when we get into this business, we go through the classes, we go through all of the training, but then we actually get into the business and there's just things that we just never were prepared for. And my guest is no stranger to real estate. You've seen him here numerous times before. Steve Kruger with Lindencraft Team Realtors. He's the senior listing and buying specialist expert with the team. And so Steve, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Jay.
It's great to have you on. So, when you think about getting into real estate, if you recall back the day when you got in, and you came from a different career.
Definitely. Yeah.
You had a different career. And so we do what we all do, right? We had to take a pre-licensing course.
Right.
Then we had to take the test. And then, in order to become a BIC, you have to take all the different courses in order to become broker eligible,
Right.
et cetera, so forth. And so, but then what happens is you actually get into becoming, when I was a buyer's agent, and you get into it and you go, I don't know anything.
Right.
So help people kind of understand, going back, what are some of the things you wish you would have known before you became a real estate agent? And you can't say what's on your mind, so don't do that either.
That is a great question because what I would say, first of all, is it can be a very rewarding career.
Mhm.
It's a lot harder than I think most people believe it is.
Right.
It's harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought excuse me, you mentioned I came from another career. I'd had a successful sales career. I got into real estate because my family actually has a real estate investing LLC, and I was interested in getting involved in real estate and really going into development.
Right.
And I got into all of it right when the housing crisis hit. But
Great time.
So my timing was
awful.
awful.
Great timing. Yeah.
But I remember thinking when I first started, and I started as an independent agent, not part of a team like I am now. And I remember crunching numbers and being like, wow, if I just sold one house a month, and I'm making this is the average transaction, and this is what I would get with my commission split. And I mean, I'm a great salesman. I am a great salesman. I can get, I can sell a house, I can sell a house a month. That's not as easy as it sounds. You think, how hard can it be to sell a house a month? It's not selling a house as far as like listing it and selling it or helping a buyer. It's getting 12 clients per year, which is not an easy thing to do.
Right.
As you're in it longer and longer, that gets easier to do. Or if you're with a rainmaker, which you do when you join a team, that's easier to do. But as far as being an independent broker and starting out, especially if you just moved to Raleigh and you're from Knoxville, Tennessee, and you had some family here, but that was your grandmother who wasn't buying or selling any houses for the rest of her life at that point. There was no natural sphere with which to grow a business. So if you're from the area and you've been here your whole life, that makes it a little easier.
Right.
But even then, I've met plenty of people that applies to, and it's not easy. So, and I don't mean to say that, excuse me, to scare anyone off. Just don't go into it thinking like, how hard can it be?
Right.
I don't even know what the count is these days. There are far too many of us out there.
Right.
Right. So there are a lot of real estate brokers you are competing with to get people's business.
Right.
So the things I wish I had learned when I first started out, I first wish I had a better understanding of teams. And I'll get more into that in a little bit because I'm on a team now.
Mm-hmm.
I started as an independent agent. I was coaxed is too strong a word, but when I moved here, like I mentioned, planning to eventually get into real estate development, and on some advice from one of the partners with my stepfather at the time in the business, was to do new home sales. I would work with some builders, developers, learn it, whatever. So I started interviewing for new home sales. So that's what I almost went into when I came here. And I met with someone at one of the big firms in town who very quickly convinced me I didn't want to do that. I was a natural for being a general broker. And so that's what I did. And had I had a better understanding at the time, based on my situation too, right? Your situation dictates a
Sure.
lot. Had I been single with nobody to support, it would have been a whole different situation than having a wife and two very young children at the
Right.
time. So for me, joining a team when I first got into real estate, excuse me, would have absolutely been the best decision I could have made. I
Mm.
wish I had made, because it was an interesting progression until I finally did join a team. So when I first started, it's understanding, how do you build a business? How do you get people
Mhm.
to work with you? And that can be hard. And it's when you start looking at marketing dollars, right?
Mhm.
I was throwing marketing dollars around all over the place and in the wrong places.
Right.
I had sat in on a presentation. At the time, I worked for Coldwell Banker, Howard Perry, and Walston here in Raleigh. And when you join a big firm like that, and if you do want to be an independent agent and not work with a team, those big firms are excellent for first getting into the business, because they
Right.
will give you excellent training. Now they're also the big offices have over 100 agents, and they're just hoping that, you know 20 out of every 100 is a success.
Right.
So they're playing a numbers game. You're part of a numbers game, but you will get really good training, so that's helpful. The training I got, we had this seminar with this woman that came in who was a successful broker in, I want to say, like Winston Salem or somewhere, and she did an annual, or not annual, a monthly movie night for like past clients, and she would do a secondary movie. So it's like it had just been in the theaters 4 months ago, so you get it at a discounted price. I was like, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that, because I thought, if I throw this free movie for everyone, why wouldn't they want to hire me to be their real estate broker?
Right. Right. Right.
I just let them and their children and everybody have this wonderful experience, and we all watched movies, and my kids were there, and it was wonderful. I was spending like $500 a month to do the movie, and another 100 on postcards. It did help me establish a nice email database, especially in the neighborhood I lived in, which was a huge neighborhood, but it did not pay returns quickly enough to have been worth it at
Mm.
all. It would be much better for me to do something like that now, just
Right.
like the team I'm on now. We do all kinds of events like that.
Right.
We have Pie Day. I was putting the cart in front of the horse. I was doing Pie Day when I had no past clients, right? I'm thinking this movie is going to get me all these clients, and they're all just like, "You're a nice guy. Thanks for the movie, but my cousin Vinny is a real estate broker, and I don't really care that you just threw me a free movie,
Right.
or the person down the street or whatever." I did get a transaction or two from it, so at the end of the day, I kind of broke even on my expense. I did
Right.
that for almost a year, but when I look at my first year as an independent broker, that was an awful lot of time and money wasted.
Mm.
So those are the kinds of things I would have loved to have understood better when I first started out.
I was when we started talking about this question, I was going back to when I was first got my license, and we were sales agents then. We weren't brokers
Right.
at that point, and because it was a different classification then. And I remember the first time I tried to fill out a contract. I don't know if you had that, but there was like fear and trepidation that, because, yes, we go over the contract and pre-licensing, and
Right.
you take an exam, which really doesn't tell you how to fill it out. But then you actually have that first contract in front of you,
Right.
and there is freeze. I was frozen, because I think I asked I think I don't remember how many questions I asked just trying to fill out the contract right.
Right.
But it's something that we kind of take for granted. You just think that, okay, well, I've done the pre-licensing course, I've passed the exam, I'm a provisional broker. I should just be able to fill out a contract. It's not that easy, is it?
No, because and when I started, that contract wasn't as long as it is now.
Right.
Now, an offer to purchase is either 17 or 18 pages. I want to say 17, could be 18. It changes.
It
Like they
changes. It
keep
changes.
adding.
It changes every year.
Um, but yeah, that's one of the things. So the first firm I joined, excuse me, and the big firms all do this. I had a mentor, and that mentor is going to get a cut of your first three commissions,
Right.
by the way, but they're also going to work with you and tutor you and help you. So my first contract, absolutely, I felt like I should know what I'm doing, but I'm going through the whole thing and I've got a ton of questions. So I'm on the
Right.
phone with my mentor, like, what do I put here? What do I put here?
Right.
Part of it is just wanting to make sure I was doing it correctly.
Right.
A lot of it I was, but I needed that assurance because
Yes.
you are
Yes.
representing somebody
Right.
making a huge purchase.
Right.
Your fear is, I don't want to screw this up.
Right. Right.
They're going to
Right.
buy, at the very first buyer I ever helped, I think it was a $375,000 house, which nowadays that house is probably worth 600,000.
Right.
Because it was just like a normal house out
Right.
in Harrison Grove or whatever. It was actually Dominion Park right by Harrison Grove. So you're like, you have some anxiety about, excuse me, I'm assisting someone with this huge purchase and
Right.
I've never done this. And I can't show to them I've never done this.
Right.
I got to be cool, calm, and collected. And that's a big part of what you got to do in the beginning, too. And you can do it, just like be confident and get advice from people that have done it. Everything you do in life, the more you do it, the better you
Right.
get. If you do 10,000 hours of anything, you're a master.
Right. Right.
I've done 10,000 hours at this point. Linda Craft's probably done 100,000
Right.
hours.
Right. Right. Right.
She's a master upon a master.
Right.
Like, so wherever you go to work, there will be people in that firm
Right.
that can help you. Just like if you were to join a team like our team, you'll have a mentor, will work with you closely,
Right.
but everybody on this team helps one another, right?
Right.
We'll have a newer agent and they may call me and can't reach me, so they'll call another agent on the team and they'll say, "Hey, I'm filling out this contract." For example, we have a newer agent filling out his first contract just about a month ago, and I said, "Just send it to me." He felt confident what he was doing and filled it all in, sent it to me, and then I pointed out to him about 25 different mistakes in his contract.
Right.
Not huge mistakes, but there were still. It was like you needed to do this and do this.
The little subtle things.
Right.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
so you will have help, but yes, there are there are all kinds of nuances to what we do, and it's not as simple as the general public thinks, and it's not as simple as anybody thinks that gets
Right.
into this business, unless maybe I would imagine like the children of realtors, like I'm friends with some guys that their mom is a very well known broker here in town, and they probably grew up understanding it's not that easy,
Right.
and heard from their mom and watched what she did,
Right.
or maybe they did think it was that easy because their mom was that successful.
Right.
That I would imagine anybody observing Linda Craft might think it's easier than it actually was for Linda to build what she's built here.
Right. Well, what you said is so true. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Right. And so you kind of have to have a mindset that says it's okay not to know,
Yep.
which nobody ever says that to you in real estate school. Nobody ever says that at all. That listen, when you do your first contract, you're going to experience fear.
Right.
You're not going to feel confident. You're going to try to come off confident. When you try to explain the contract for the first time between agencies, right? You remember
Mhm.
dual designated, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you're trying to explain that and you're stumbling over the words. And so you just read the paragraph. We all experienced
Right.
that the first time through. I
I've
think,
got a great
go ahead.
tale in that vein real fast. The greatest fear you're going to have is, or one of the greatest fears you're going to have is if someone were to actually ask how much experience you have when you're starting out, right?
Right.
I was always worried about it. Now, when working with buyers, that rarely happens. People don't tend to, they just,
Right.
they should, because I can tell you, if I represent you as a buyer right now, you are far better off than anybody that's not done it or only done a handful of transactions or even, you know,
Right.
20 transactions or whatever it may be. The more you do any of this, the better you are. So somebody that's buying a house should absolutely say, how many houses have you sold? Because I know all the pitfalls. I've made the mistakes, just like
Right.
anything in your life. One of the reasons you get better at everything is you failed at certain
Right.
things, right? And you learn from your mistakes. Real
Right.
estate's no different. I have made mistakes that I learned from, and I won't repeat those for my clients. I also have a ton of experience when it comes to negotiations and what to expect. So the more experienced you are, the better you are at doing what we do. But in the beginning, you don't have that experience, and
Right.
that's fine. You're going to gain it. Um, but the concern was always that somebody would ask. So my very first listing appointment that I ever had, I go in, I'm like, I'm confident I can sell, right? Like I got this. And towards the end of the appointment, the guy says, "So how many homes have you sold?" I'd never sold a single home, not to a buyer, not to a seller. I got a listing appointment with this guy, right? I learned all the, scripts,
Right.
and I was confident, and I,
Right.
did what I thought was a good job.
Right.
And he asked me that question, which everyone should,
Right.
but you almost never hear it.
Right.
Um, and I had to be honest with him and say, I have never sold a house. I didn't get that listing. That
Mm.
I was shut out of the water. So yes, that is a fear. Fortunately, if you're thinking about excuse me, if you out there are thinking about getting into this business, not everybody's going to ask you that question. So don't be afraid.
Well, but then I will say this to counter that: when you work on a team,
Right?
it's actually an advantage for you
Hmm.
because you could say, "Well, hold it here. I may not have, but you have to remember the team has sold thousands,
Right.
and I'm backed by the team, and that's a huge advantage for you."
The thing I've learned now, more important than probably anything I've learned in this business, if you're going to start a career in real estate, is probably 95, maybe even 99% of the people getting into real estate should join a team first.
Mm.
You can join a team, grow your skill set, and certainly go out on your own
Mm.
later. We've had some agents do that here for this
Mhm.
team and
Sure.
do very well for themselves.
Yeah.
We've also got 6 top producers here that have chosen not to do that because we all do well for ourselves as part of a team. And there's pros and cons to both. But I started off and watched and was part of a group that honestly I didn't do well enough to stick with it. Part of that was the fact that I started literally right before the housing crisis. But like I said, it was tough to build a business up. And had
Right.
I joined a team, had I joined Linda Craft team
Right.
back then, I doubt I would have. As you know, I changed careers for
Right.
several years before getting back into real estate. I doubt that would have ever happened if I had joined a team
Mm.
because there would have been enough business for me
Mhm.
to stick with it and essentially make a living at.
Mm.
So I would say for the bulk of people, and everyone out there is gonna. I was confident that I don't need to join a team.
Right.
And that's fine. The more confidence you have, the better you are going to be in
Mm.
this business in the
Right.
long run. Because I do think that's an important personality trait to succeed. But ha- joining a team would have made sense for me. I saw the rookie class that I joined at HPW. I can think, excuse me, of ones that were not part of a team. I know some guys that did well that were part of a team, but the ones that were like me, just trying to completely grow a business from scratch, I can think of one guy in particular that took off immediately, and he's the rarity. He's the
Mhm.
1%, right? So maybe you're going to be one of that 1%,
Right.
but it's rare. He just had it. He took no for an answer. He did like he just built a business.
Right.
I knew a couple other guys that slowly but steadily built one and are extremely successful now. And it was the right choice for them to do that. But I would say for me and for the majority of people that I saw starting out
Right.
there at HPW, a team was a better choice. And a lot of the ones, I would say more of the ones that I know that started around the time I did that are still in the business
Right.
are on teams, actually,
Right.
joined teams later on. They realize this is difficult and a team would be a good setup. So I would say for most people, if I had to pass on wisdom from when I started, joining a team is a great thing because unless you are going to just knock it out of the park,
Right.
building your business right out of the gate, or you have enough just money to be able to go a year
Right.
without really generating a lot of income, a team's a better fit.
One of the things that I don't think people consider, people who are not in real estate and then people who come into real estate,
Right.
is how much time it takes.
Right.
I mean, like, when I first started showing houses, this is in the late 90s,
Hmm.
right? When I first started showing houses, you know, we went to house after house after house after house after house after house.
Right.
You don't understand that you couldn't make it through the day getting through all the houses.
Right.
It was a 2-day thing. By the way, you're not getting paid. You're just running gas,
Right.
running time, and you're just showing house after house after house after house, right?
Right.
And of course, as you get better at this, you start to realize that you don't have to show quite as many. But when you're new,
Right.
you're trying to show
The better
everything.
you get, the more experience you get, you'll show less
Right,
houses.
right. Well, because you know
Right.
you get, but you start interviewing them what they want up front and what
Right.
their expectations are.
And you learn how to reel them in. I had somebody I remember early in my career that just absolutely wanted to cram like 30
Yeah,
showings into 2 days or something when
yeah,
they're
I've
in
done that.
town. And I now have enough experience to be like, look, this is what you're looking for. And I can already tell you, like, let's narrow it down to these.
Well, and we also have so much more available to us in terms of video and pictures that we didn't have then that, go, hey, look at this. Oh, that's not going to work. And they start looking at dimensions and things like that. But then there's the other time, there's time that you have to prospect,
Hmm.
right? And, you're trying to build a business,
Right.
right? Which means that you need to have, you're generally everybody starts, with buyers,
Yep.
right? Which by the way, take a lot of time.
That's why we all like listings.
Right, 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 right. Because listings take less
Right.
time, right?
Listings take it takes a skill set that really is at a higher
It's
level.
a very different skill set.
Right. But it is less time consuming in the
Right,
long run than a
right,
buyer because you're not driving around showing houses.
right. But what people don't understand. I've heard people say, "Oh, well, those real estate agents, they just get paid and they don't do anything." I'm like going, if you looked at the amount of time that an average real estate agent
Right.
broker spends on one client,
Yep.
their hourly wage is not all that good.
It's not only that, it's what people don't understand is like you're going to work with people that never transact. So that
Right,
was all
right,
essentially a waste of time. I like to
right,
look at it as it wasn't a waste of time because you gained some valuable knowledge about
right,
the market and about people and everything else. But you may, I had someone recently that and no, I'll get her business down the road. Her transaction didn't finalize because of problems getting a loan with
right,
the divorce situation, and everything else. But I invested a good amount of time in that,
right,
and then no transaction because we couldn't get to the finish line
right,
because something to do really with the financials between husband and wife,
right,
not yet divorced. So we will spend time on, or just somebody calls in. It happens all the time, right? Somebody's like, "Hey, you've got this listing. I'd like to
right,
see it." And the more experience you get, you'll waste less time
right,
with those people just showing them the house
right.
than in the beginning where you're like, I'm brand new
We
and I'm
we
starving. I'll do whatever it
you
takes.
you'll put any warm body in your car
Or
if
just meet them, right? They call and you drive 45 minutes to show a
one
house,
way, right,
right? And they don't like the house and then they never return another phone call or
right,
email. You do that. So when people say, like, they look at it and it's funny because you'll transact with someone that it actually was like really simple.
right,
They just said, "Hey, I want to see this
right,
house." You met them out there, they loved it, you wrote the contract, and you made a bunch of money.
right,
That happens,
right.
right? That's not the norm.
That's rare,
And that just balances out all the other time you're spending
right,
that doesn't transact. There's a lot of time spent, especially on the buyer side, right? But
right,
even on the selling side, you might list a house that expires. So you spend all that time. I haven't had a lot of expirations in my career, but I've had some. We all have. that was all time spent and money
Right.
spent
Marketing
not
dollars. Yeah.
not transacting. So that all falls into your bottom line equation. And what people don't understand when they look at what a commission check might be, and first of all, we're not keeping all of it because there's splits with your firm and everything else, is that it's a business like any other business. We have operating expenses. I have to pay every year to have a license. I have to
Right.
pay to take classes. I have to pay for all my gas. I am a 1099. I have to pay double Social Security what a
Right.
normal person pays.
Yeah. Right.
I don't get health insurance paid
Right.
for by my company. I have to pay for health insurance.
Right.
So, yeah, you saw the check I made on that transaction was $10,000, but what were my operating expenses? Just because a company sells a $10,000 TV doesn't mean they made
Right.
$10,000. There were all kinds of costs, marketing being part of that too,
Right.
right? Everything that went into selling that $10,000. It's a nice TV for $10,000. But everything that went into that $10,000 was not profit.
Right.
Everything in my $10,000 commission check was not profit.
Yeah. We see, and again, people don't understand. We pay our own insurance, right? Which, by the way, is typically more expensive,
Yep.
right? Our insurance premium, operating expenses, gas expense, wear and tear on the vehicle that we've been taking people out who may or may not have transacted with us.
Right.
There's lost time with family,
Mhm.
right?
So that's the other thing when you talk about time, and it's a pro and a con in our business. I love the autonomy of it. I have always, through my entire career, well, other than my very first job out of college, I've always sought an autonomous job. I've
Mhm.
been in sales. Essentially, I managed a business, operations manager, and then general manager of a company for about 4 years when I first got out of college. And that was not autonomous at all. I had to be there every day
Mhm.
from 7 a.m. till 4 p.m. But once I got into sales and had that taste of the autonomy of an outside salesman, I never wanted to go back. I
Right.
enjoy and still enjoy the control I have over my calendar. If I want to take tomorrow off and just do nothing, I can. I don't recommend it if you want to make a living in this business. I'm
Right.
not saying that's what I do, but I have the freedom to do that. So the autonomy is great. I can, if my uh my kids are getting older now, but if one of them had a performance at school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I had the kind of job I could go do that. I
Right.
had to make sacrifices. So that's the con, right? You have to sacrifice. Well, I could be spending that time doing something else that might make me money. So there's pros and cons there. But what's not seen in anybody that's fully, like the spouses of realtors or people that just know what we
Mhm.
do, we don't ever get true time off, and that's something to keep in mind too if you're considering
Right.
this as a career. I can go to the beach for a week and do my absolute best not to work, but it doesn't happen. I have, at the time I choose to go to the beach for a week, I probably have at least one house on the market,
Right.
maybe a couple. Luckily, the last couple of years they sell so fast, they're probably under contract. And I don't have
Right.
as much to deal with. But there are times I've gone on vacation, arrived at a lake house, and we just activated a house that day. And when I want to just unpack, go sit out on the deck and have a drink and
Right.
relax and enjoy my family, I've already got 7 offers that came in from the time I was driving from Raleigh to the lake house in Virginia. I couldn't just put that off or let it
Right.
go. I had to go ahead, and as soon as I arrived at my vacation, start working. And even when they're preparing dinner, because we're with another family, I'm like, just keep mine warm.
Right.
Finally, by like 10 o'clock at night, and we arrived at probably 4 o'clock,
Right.
I was able to like literally turn off work. And then once I got that under contract, I was kind of able to turn off work a bit for the rest of the week. But that's what happens.
Right.
Or somebody, in the middle of your vacation, all of a sudden, here's some houses I want to see. Luckily, that's one of the benefits of joining a team too. I can get one of our team members to show them those houses, but I still need to coordinate that. So I'm still working, right? There's some
Right.
amount of work we always have to do even when we're on vacation.
Yep.
That's not like a normal job. So when people think like, you know, we have this luxurious lifestyle that doesn't work. How many jobs out there do you have to work weekends, evenings, vacations,
Holidays,
holidays? I have sold houses numerous times on Christmas
Christmas
Eve.
Day. Yeah, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day.
Yep.
Christmas Day, there's even been negotiations in my house on Christmas Day.
Sure.
On Christmas Day.
I've absolutely had a negotiation
Because
on
they want
Christmas Day.
they want that negotiated on Christmas Day,
Right.
because what they want to do is they want to end it so they're not dealing with it after Christmas, and it's their Christmas present, and so they want it done. We've done an hour. I mean, we've done it 30 minutes, and which we always do on the show. You've been great. Tell people how to get a hold of you.
So you can reach me if you want to email me. I'm at Steve, Steve, at LindaCraft, CRAFT.com, or you can call me at 919-740-9795. And if you're interested in a career in real estate watching this, I'd love to talk to you. I'd be happy to give you advice. If you're here in the Triangle area and you're thinking about this as a career or moving somewhere else, we'd love to have you join Linda Craft team.
Yeah.
So give me a call, send me an email.
That's awesome. Thanks, Steve, again for being here. Fun and great information, folks. By the way, DBTV watching us Saturday mornings. Thanks for watching us. We really do appreciate you all over the world. We're on Saturday mornings, and so thank you for doing that. Listen, you listen to us by podcast. You had a lot of choices. You chose us. You chose to download us. Thanks for doing that. Give us a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. As I say to you all over the world, you know what that is. Ciao, everybody from Real